Hello, everybody. You're making me laugh. Someone said cursing is okay because I said the word ass before I started recording this for those of you who are watching the recording. And even though I got a bunch of Gary Vee books up there and I'm speaking at this event, that's not normally something I do very much. So I'm Todd Bookspan. I'm the founder of Win by Noon. And this webinar had some title like 2019 Ideas and Win by Noon, something like that. It's really geared towards Win by Noon. Existing users, and I've got a large group of you on here, 50 plus, which is awesome. And I just wrapped up the business planning webinar, and then yesterday I did brand new Win by Noon user, real estate specific, loan officer specific, and I have no idea who's on this webinar today. So let me ask you guys a few questions because I've got a couple of different directions that I can go with this webinar. And so here's what I need to know, and just type it in one line. So first off, there's no Q&A here. You can't raise your hand. I won't be able to call on you. So you have to use the chat feature. When you find the chat feature, it's live. I specifically turned off the Q&A because I found that half the people would use the Q&A, half would use the chat. It was too hard to manage the two things. I need it all in one place for my small mind. And I think you all know who I am, but if you don't, you can ask that question. But all I want you guys to put into the chat is what industry you're in and a couple of what your expectations are of this call, meaning what is it you want me to talk about? What is it you want to learn? Because when I just say I've got ideas, I can go a lot of different directions. But if there's ideas that you guys want me to answer, I kind of view this more as a little bit of a hey, here's what I see in the market, which I'll talk about first. Here's what I'm doing with Win by Noon, which I'll talk about second. And then I want to kind of evolve it based on what you guys will find of value today. Again, I think most of you know who I am, but the unique thing that I've had the opportunity to do over the past year and a half is travel the country and speak to people in all industries, primarily loan officers and real estate agents. And I would say it was probably, 50, 60% LOs and 40, 50% real estate agents. And I also talked to title reps and home warranty reps and folks in all sorts of other, in other industries. And so what I have found is that there's an astounding number of similarities. And then of course there's some industry specific things. And what I have found is that, my opinions are different because I talk to so many different people in so many different places, right? So when I'm talking to, a loan officer in Alaska or a real estate team in Hawaii or a loan officer in Florida or, a branch manager in Ohio, right? These are people I talk to and, the struggles are the same: distraction, right? Prioritization, inability to try things that are new. Like those things are, that's the same everywhere, regardless of the industry. The markets are slightly different, but in the end, everyone's told me it's going to be a harder market in 2019 than it was in 2018. And so what I think is that we've got I think that we have an opportunity to make 2019 our best year yet. And we have a lot of risks heading into the year. And I'll tell you what the biggest risk is you to yourself, right? My biggest risk is me. It's not anybody else. And you're going to hear me say a couple of words over and over again today. And I apologize in advance, especially those of you who are just on the last call. Number one is it's a decision, right? So I always start there. You got to make a decision if you want it to be different for next year. And when you make that decision, you're going to have to commit to some things that may be uncomfortable and that may push you outside of your envelope. And you are going to have to think differently probably to get there. And I'm not going to go through the commitments and all that because I just recorded a webinar on how to build your business plan. And so you guys can watch that. I'm going to send out an email afterwards. So let me just give you the commitment up front. By Monday, I'm going to send everyone who registered for the webinars an email. And that email is going to have a couple of links in it. In fact, it'll have a lot of links. But it'll have a link to the free resources that are out there. Some of you know about them: the Quick Start, the business planning tool. And we're going to make a landing page somewhere of the 4 webinars from today and yesterday. And then it'll also have a link to the sales page of the stuff that we're going to start pushing out there to sell. And this isn't a big sales pitch, but it's just a reality because people keep asking me about it. I can already see it in here. And ultimately, the reason we're giving away a lot of free content is so when I start selling stuff, no one thinks I'm a jerk. And the reason we're selling stuff is because people don't take what they get for free and actually put it to the best use. That's just the reality of it. And so when I say you guys have to decide, there's about 10 different quotes that the people in my group coaching program I did last year got tired of me saying, right? The definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. what got you here won't get you there, right? Jim Rohn always says that, if you don't have your own life plan, someone else will create one for you. Guess what they have planned for you? Not much, right? I mean, again, these are things that I think are just really critical to remind yourself of, because we've all been there. We've all struggled. We've all struck out. We've all hit home runs too, right? And I don't think that 2019 needs to be a year of home runs. It just needs to be a year of getting on base, right? I'd rather have you hitting doubles and triples than striking out, right? If you're going for home runs, oftentimes you're striking out. And so we've just got to figure out, how do we become more consistent? That's interesting. I don't normally use baseball consistently when I talk. Baseball analogies when I talk. That's what I meant. And so, again, as I'm kind of going through here, just so you guys know, is I've got a lot of lenders on here. Someone's asking me if it's recorded. It will be recorded. And people have questions on, all right, so let me ask this question. Is there anyone on here who's not a loan officer? I would like you to put it in the notes, because as I'm looking at it, 100% of the people who are in here are loan officers. And if that's the case, I'm going to take a loan officer specific turn with this call. But if there's a realtor or two on here, then I want to know so I don't offend you. I'm waiting. See, that's patiently. It's really hard for me not to talk. You'll find that I get sarcastic the longer I've stood on my feet, and it's not my best quality, so I apologize in advance. I'm attempting to talk slow, and you guys are funny. All right. So there's no realtors been brave enough to raise their hand, and nobody's quit yet. So if you guys are here, we're going to go. If you're a realtor, then you can ask me a question. So let's just sort of talk through what we've got going here. And I'll tell you what I see on here is I see people who are brand new to Win by Noon, people who want to brush up on Win by Noon, people are talking about efficiency and being more effective. And so, regardless of what industry you're in, I'm just going to kind of walk down those paths, because I think that will be helpful. I already mentioned that I just finished up using the business planning tool. So this has probably been the best thing that I've ever given away for free, at least based on the feedback that I'm getting. And the business planning tool, it's no surprise, is actually what's the first part of Win by Noon. And I did this on purpose. I did this actually for you loan officers, because when I did loans, my number one thing I did was I planned with my realtors. I helped them with business planning quarterly. And so that's why there's a realtor specific, loan officer specific, insurance agent specific, and executive specific version of the business planning tool. And so that way you don't have to go out and buy one for them, or Win by Noon for them, and then to get them to start. So this will happen. And then if you can get them to be interested in this, my guess is they may become a Win by Noon client, which ironically wasn't my intention, but it's what the result is, which is cool. I really, I'm appreciative of that. But I think that when it comes to you guys, just to tell you what I think is your number one opportunity in 2019 is deeper relationships with the people you already know. Because here's what I see already. I got an email last night from somebody who said, I'm no longer in the loan business. That's going to happen a lot. I feel like there's going to be a lot of desperation over the next 90 days of people, maybe the person in the office next to you, maybe the person in the mortgage company across the street, maybe someone in a mortgage company across the country that's calling your realtors and your clients because they want to stay in the business. They need to pay their bills, and they don't want to be like the person who emailed me last night. I had 3 people in the past couple of weeks who emailed me that got out of lending. Had one person who emailed me who got out of real estate. And so it's going to be a hard market. I don't want you guys to be there. And so the number one thing that you guys need to do is dig in on your business plan, dig in on your relationships, and find your accountability partner, whether it's the guy or gal in the office next to you or whether it's with a realtor. But I'm seeing a lot of people using helping the realtors plan. It's kind of easy right now this time of year to get someone to say, yeah, I'll do a business plan with you, and use that as your reason to call. Because what I find is that most of you are pretty good when you get somebody on the phone. In fact, you're even better when you get them face to face. And what I find though is that you struggle to get them on the phone, not because they won't answer it, which is the problem sometimes, but oftentimes you struggle because you don't know what to say or what's the value I'm going to add. And I had a couple of times in the past quarter where people told me, good loan officers told me, well, yeah, they just said that they don't have any leads for me today. And I said, that's really weird. So I asked this other client of mine, friend, I said, hey, have you ever had a realtor say to you, I don't have any leads for you today? And he said, huh? Like, it was kind of weird too, just full disclosure. It was his birthday and he was sitting in the hot tub when I was talking to him on the phone, doing his coaching call. I mean, it was a paid call. I thought that was a little odd. Hopefully he's not on here. I just didn't offend him. But he said, no. He said, because they're my friends. And I said, okay, good. That's what I thought, right? But he's a guy who's doing a lot of volume, 50+ million, and now leading a team. And The reason I say that, and I bring it up and I say relationship is so important, and the reason we got to figure out how to get over the call reluctance and then get the meeting and have a good meeting is that if you're calling up to get a lead, then that's not a relationship. If I'm calling up and I'm checking in to see, hey, how was New Year's? Like, did you guys go to that comedy show that you were going to go to at the comedy club that your kids' favorite comedians were? Like, that would be kind of cool. Like, I had friends who reached out to me the last couple of days and said, hey, how was that show you took your daughter to? Right? Because they cared about it. They built a relationship with me. And the weird part about it is that you could do the same thing. You know how? Because I posted a picture on Instagram of me and my daughter at the show. So I call it the 3 Fs: family, fun, future. And then I added this 4th F, Facebook or social media. Because really, if you've taken the time to get to know somebody, then you already know these things and you can ask them about it and have that relationship. If you forgot the relationship part, like if you closed the Smith family loan last year, and you're like, how am I going to call them now to start this annual review thing that Todd talks about all the time when I didn't really get to know much about their family last year, and I didn't tell them I was even going to do an annual review? Well, then you got to kind of go to the Facebook thing, right? And then you go look and see, right? Oh my gosh, look at that. Their kid just turned 1, whatever you learned. Like, they had a baby. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you had a baby. I totally missed that. And so you can use that to build relationship with clients and with your realtors. And so I know that some of this stuff is going to sound kind of basic, but that's okay. That's what's going to win 2019. It's not going to be that shiny object that you just saw this cool thing over here that someone else is doing. It's really going to be blocking and tackling. It's going to be the basics, right? John Wooden started out every year. He was the famous UCLA basketball coach that won the back-to-back seasons. He had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all the greats at UCLA, considered to be the greatest basketball coach ever. Maybe some people might say Phil Jackson too, but I think let's go with Wooden, even though I'm not a UCLA fan. He made his team every year, even when they just won the national championships. He made them sit down. The first practice was how to put on their socks and how to tie their shoes. Because if he knew if they got a blister, that was going to impede their ability to play and to win the next championship, right? And so it's the basics, the blocking and tackling. So I would tell you guys it's relationships. It's getting to know the people, because that's going to get the call down. That way they're not like, well, yeah, I don't have any leads for you today. And one of my other guys said, and he talked about it at our certified instructor program. He said for him, he's living life with his best referral partners. That's really cool. And ironically, he was one of the people that told me a couple weeks before that I call them and they say they don't have any leads for me. And it's oftentimes it's a number. So people are like, well, Todd, but you said I have to call 32 people today. Well, I didn't say you had to call 32 people. One is that there's no magic number for you, because your number could be different than the other people who are on this call's number. You'll figure that out if you actually start tracking your activities in Win by Noon, which I'll talk about for you new users in a minute. And you're going to figure out what the right number is for you. But if it's a number and you're just dialing to get through the number, then it's going to feel to the person on the other end of the phone like they're just a number. If it's a conversation and you figure out how to live life with them, it's going to be different. And so as I walked that client, that friend, that Win by Noon user through that conversation, which started with they say they don't have any leads for me, and it ended with him identifying by me asking him better questions, which I'll talk about in just one second, by helping him identify who were his best partners. He's like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So he switched up what his priorities were based on what he saw as his results. And so build relationship, I think, is really critical. The other piece I'll add on that is just ask better questions. If you're not good at asking questions, oftentimes in sales, we show up and throw up, right? We just go, oh, I got this, I do this. Hey, what about that? And you got to ask questions to figure out what's important to them. Maybe you haven't had this experience, but I had it a lot because I would show up and throw up. Well, I tell them about this brand new shiny object, and they'd be like, yeah, Todd, I tried that. That's dumb. No, I have no interest in doing that. Like, if I could just ask them a couple of questions up front, like, hey, tell me what is, how did your year end up last year? Again, basic question, right? I could walk them through a business planning tool without actually having the tool in front of me. Hey, do you mind if I take notes? Oh, like, awesome. Hey, how was your year last year? It was good. Awesome. Hey, like, how many families did you serve? Like, how many deals did you close? Oh, I closed 32. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Listings, buyers? Oh, about half and half. Wow, that's really great. Where did they come from? Did they come from your sphere or online? What that looked like? Oh, here's what it was. And specificity, awesome. So what was most successful of those things you did last year? wow, that's really awesome. Do you mind giving me a little more detail? Like, what did that look like? And they'll walk you through it. Gosh, well, was there something that you didn't do last year that you want to do this year? Right? Again, I'm looking at the projects that I can help them with. Like, where can I come alongside this person just by asking better questions? And oftentimes the better question is, hey, tell me more about that. Hey, what does that look like? Can I ask you a clarifying question? And really going deep with them down those roads, and then taking notes and then putting it in your CRM so that you can actually remember it, unless you've got a laser memory. I don't. Like, for me, it's like, oh, in and out, in 1 year, in 1 year out the other. And so asking better questions will also help you get there. And I found a lot of growth helping loan officers with the scripting and the better questions piece. And then it starts to become a little bit more natural when you've spent some time doing it. But what I can tell you is that realtors like talking about themselves. And if you can get them talking about yourselves and stop talking about yourself, and you can figure out what it is that they want, you'll be better off. I also have story after story of someone telling me they were going to have a meeting with somebody and that this is what I'm going to pitch them on. And I'd say, well, oh, cool. I don't think she's on here because she was on the last call, but maybe she is, but that's okay. I'll tell her story. Anyway, she told me she was going to go meet with these brokers, and she was excited about it. And that they'd asked for some flyers. She was bringing the flyers, but she was also going to tell them that they should do their lunch and learns that they used to do. And I said, oh, that's really great. And then I shut up and I let her keep talking. I said, hey, let's go back to those lunch and learns for a second. I said, hey, why did they stop doing them? She's like, I don't know. I said, did they like doing them? She said, I don't know. I said, were they successful? Did they result in business? I don't know. I said, well, maybe instead of going in there and telling them you should do lunch and learns, maybe you should go in there and ask them what's on their agenda for this year. And then some point casually say, hey, what about those lunch and learns you used to do, and learn about them? Because the funny part was when she did that, that was of no interest to them. And so she would have gone in there, she would have pitched them on it, she would have kept going and going and going, because we've all done that before. And then they would have been like, yeah, that was a waste of my time. And instead she was able to turn it around and make it into a great, a great meeting. And so there's a couple people who just joined us. We're recording this meeting. You can put into the chat what your role is and what you want to learn today, because it's a little bit of a freestyle. And we're going to dig in a little bit on Win by Noon here in a minute. If you guys have questions on the stuff that I just said, let me know. Win by Noon, I'm going to do a couple things on Win by Noon. So those of you who are brand new users, just make sure you send me an email after this, todd@winbynoon.com, because I did a new user webinar yesterday specifically for loan officers. And so I don't want to bore the ninjas of Win by Noon with going too basic today, but I have a recording that I just did that's really good. And there's also the Quick Start, which is the video series that I did on that as well. Those of you who want to see how I teach it to realtors, I'll send you guys the link for the realtor one too if you want it. And then I will also make sure you guys have a link to the business planning tool webinar I just did, a link to the business planning tool tutorial that exists so that you guys can use these things with your partners. And again, I would just tell you that the people who are using the business planning tool to run masterminds right now and Win by Noon to run masterminds are crushing it. Like, it's super crazy, it exceeds my expectations. It makes me feel good because they're spreading my why, which is to help people reach their potential in business life, whatever you think that is. And so when it comes to kind of brushing up and best practices, let me kind of talk through what I've seen recently. And there's a couple people on here who were in our the group coaching programs that I did. And again, full disclosure is that I'm rolling those out as a digital product in a couple of weeks. So I'll be talking more about that. I'll send you guys some info how you can get a link on that. But I found that the people who filled out my survey, which one of you on here did not fill out my survey, that I sent to all of them, 100% of them who went through the program had momentum. Not everyone made it through though. We graduated like 85%-ish of the group, and some people just didn't make it. But that's normal for a group like that, of people who get scared off by the accountability, who get too busy of doing their whatever they're not doing to get there. And what I found was a couple of things that I observed from the people who got the most momentum. And the most momentum was people doing, my target for the group was people that were consistently doing less than 2 loans a month. And I had people who were brand new all the way up to people who had been in the business for almost 40 years in the group. 58 people total between 2 groups. One was installing your basic operating system, like really what are the basics of scripting and process, and they were all built around Win by Noon, just full disclosure. And and then really like defining each piece of the process and making people go through and identify who their partners were and stuff like that. And the other one was called building referral relationships, where straight out of the gate, nothing new, but straight out of the gate, they were forced to do a happy hour or a lunch and learn. They reached out to cold realtors, their sphere. Again, we talked a lot about scripting and stuff on those calls. And so I observed all those people. And so there was 48 people total, 58 between the two groups, because there was 10 who were in both groups. And I would tell you that the people who got the most growth were people who lived by an ideal week, number one. So when I talk about best practices, I'm going to talk about living your ideal week. I won't go too deep into the details on the ideal week because I've got lots of other content you can watch on it. But if you commit, which is the word I talked about up front, if you make a decision to commit to these are the activities I'm going to do day in and day out, week in and week out, then you will get the growth. Because the bottom line is those people grew the most. What was their biggest risk? The biggest risk was that they grew, and then all of a sudden they had a hard time sticking to their ideal week. So ironically, halfway through, I just spent significant time, 2 weeks in a row, helping the people who were doing a lot of loans now. I mean, someone who literally had never done more than one loan in a month was closing 6 loans. Well, you don't have an assistant, you're that person, a weak processor, you're working really hard. And how do you then do those activities that got you the business so that you don't not have business the next month, right? That roller coaster we've all ridden. And how do you keep the activities going that you need to do and still get all your loans done? So those are things that you've got to be committed to those activities, though, because that's why people ride the roller coaster. And so it's design your ideal week. And again, I'll give you guys info on how to do that. Help your real estate agents design their ideal week. Help your coworkers design their ideal week. Again, when you've got a whole branch that's doing all these activities together, or a team that's doing these activities together, it's a whole lot easier because then nobody's bugging you because they're all doing the same thing at the same time. Accountability, right? You're gonna grow with scale. In fact, we're seeing a lot of that right now. I'd say that the majority from here through the end of January of webinars that I'm doing is to launch branches or regions, in some cases small mortgage companies, where they're using Win by Noon as the structure and accountability, the ideal week, and those activities, either straight out of how I teach it, or I've helped them modify it a little bit to fit their business. Mainly in the mortgage space, 2/3, 1/3 in the real estate space, and then part of the mortgage ones are ones where they're working with realtors too. So I throw that out there because depending on what role you sit in, sorry, I'm shaking my desk, which is not good because it's a stand-up desk. But part of what I'm seeing is there is pressure on you to do what everyone else is doing, to allow them to disrupt you and do all that. So for those of you who are asking, for sort of like the best practices and stuff like that, let me just say, number one is identify the ideal week. And that's really where, if you've heard me speak at all, I continue to plant my flag there, because when someone buys into that concept, I'm seeing the most growth. And that really just comes down to what are your daily disciplines that I'm going to commit to every day, and then what are those target date commitments that I'm going to make, meaning I'm going to target, like, one day I'm going to do my update calls, one day I'm going to do my pre-approval calls, hey, I'm going to put annual mortgage reviews in there, and really be specific that I do those things every week consistently. And when you have an ideal week and you focus on it and you actually spend time to look at it, then you can say, all right, here's my example I've been using. I found this. It was April 11th through 17th of 2017. And you can see this was pre-Win by Noon. It said call block right there. So I had a call block. And then I had these things here that I did this next call block that I scribbled out. But when you get to Thursday, look at that. I'm on a field trip with my kids. And Thursday was my call my realtor day. So because this was Win by Noon time, I most likely did those realtor calls in the block on Wednesday. If it was pre-Win by Noon time, I just wouldn't have made any realtor calls that week. I'd be like, I'll just make up for it next week, which was bad strategy. Again, the people who commit to the activities, you would move that block forward. So if I was teaching it today, right, this was just me before Win by Noon existed, I would have written in here my committed activities so that I made sure that I did them that week, right? I would take my ideal week. I'd write, this is what my ideal week is going to be. Okay, let's look at this week to see how does it compare to my ideal week. Oh, I got that field trip. I better make sure that I move those Thursday activities to the day forward. That Friday morning I was speaking at a real estate team's meeting. Again, I couldn't move those things. The school wasn't going to move the field trip around my schedule. The real estate team that met every Friday morning wasn't going to move their real estate team meeting so that they could meet with me, right? I chose to go there. That was a choice that I made. And then I have to make sure that I'm really, really laser focused on how to get the other things done. around that. So you have to be really committed and really clear on what those activities are. Best practice is always to have this thing open on your desk, right? So it's funny because I'm here teaching and I've got 4 different win by noons out here, 2, a realtor one, a loan officer one, my current one, and my last quarter's one. So I don't even know where the right one is to pull up my example, but it's probably just one with bookmarks in it, right? Right, but I've got my today's week in there. In fact, you can see I even whited something out. I switched an appointment. I bumped someone to later in the day and I whited it out. Normally I cross it out, but today I pulled out the white out. I'm a little bit trying to, I'm such a slob, but I'm a little bit, I don't know, whatever. I pulled it out today. I carry actually some in my backpack now too, because again, stuff changes, right? You can see in the old days, right? I just scribbled it all out. So that's just okay. But you got to carry it with you and you have to have it with you. So again, my family makes fun of me, but most of the time, like we went out to dinner as a family on whatever the night before last was, January, I guess it was New Year's. And I brought my planner into dinner. Why do I bring it into dinner? I bring it into dinner because my wife might ask me that's something I need to do. And it's just much easier for me to pull it out and write it down right there than to try to remember to write it down later. I went to a basketball game with 15 family members last night, didn't bring it in with me, right? And so again, if someone would have said, hey, Todd, can you do this? Then 50-50 chance I would have remembered and still got it done. Yes, I have an iPhone, and yes, I plug things in the calendar there, but for me, what gets on my calendar does get done, but my to-do list may not get into Win by Noon, and I look at Win by Noon. And so if I'm talking to you today and you tell me, hey, I'm going out, I'm looking at property this weekend with my realtor, then if on my Monday Win by Noon to-do list would be your name and the realtor's name. So I remember on Monday to call. And if I knew it was someone's birthday, so it was a team member's birthday today. And so, I wrote it down. And so guess who I called first call this morning? Rachel, I wished her happy birthday. So I write the things down so I remember to do it. Could I have gone on Facebook and looked at it and wished her happy birthday? Maybe, but she's on our team. It's probably more important for me to call her than it is for me to wish her happy birthday on Facebook like her other 62,000 Facebook friends. So you carry it with you so that you write that stuff down. That's how it gets done. You commit to your ideal week and you make sure it's in there. So again, if you look at my week, it's a little bit different now because I'm not in sales right now. So I'm not really living the ideal week like you would live. My ideal week is built around, again, these are all 2 webinars, 3 webinars today, right? Kickoff call for a mortgage company, right? A business planning meeting with a friend, right? Business planning meeting with a company that has a product that they want me to see if I can't help integrate in a different way for them. Stuff like that. But I am tracking my calls and my conversations on here too, because I do care about that, right? Even in my role, I still do the quality conversations and all those things. But you got to carry it with you. Every once in a while, someone's like, oh, I totally forgot my numbers. Well, so they didn't carry with them. And so, find some way to do it. For me, oh my gosh, my back's a little tight. I carry it in my Win by Noon backpack. Again, it's just one of those things where we don't sell those. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have even showed it, but just grab something small and light that you can carry around with you. And just don't leave it on the roof of your car and have it, have it blow off. And the irony is about once or twice a quarter, I do have someone who reaches out to me and says that they lost theirs. And so I always laugh because we do have to replace a couple a quarter for people who are super distraught that they don't have their planner. The other best practice is to have an accountability partner. And again, I can't stress it enough. And that's why I had a huge smile on my face. I had more people register for the business planning and how to business plan with your accountability partner webinar than what I just got off of than I've ever had register for one of my Win by Noon webinars. And made me smile because I think that's really critical. You have to have some version of accountability. And so the people who grew in the program that we did, I think grew for 2 reasons. One is because they adapted the ideal week and they didn't make excuses. And then the other is that they had an accountability partner, right? I was the accountability. They had to turn in their homework weekly. Did people get behind sometimes? Yeah. Right? Did people like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to you late. I'll get it to you tomorrow. Yeah. That happened. Did people make coffee appointments with their realtors at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday when I tell them that they should not do that till afternoon? Absolutely. Right. That's just being human. And that's okay, but they all still grew because they were open to the ideas. And so I would just tell you that that's the other part, is to be really open to the ideas. And then of course, the last best practice, in my opinion, because it's what was the game changer for my business, was really push your priorities first and before noon and just ignore everything else. it's easier said than done. You're going to have to force yourself to do it. I hid out at first. If you've heard me tell the story before, I hid it till 8:30 at a burrito shop, coffee shop, or restaurant. And then eventually I came in and I put a do not disturb sign on the door, which is what's on there now. But then I was able to explain to people, if you're going to do it in your office, you have to say why I'm doing this. Because if not, people aren't going to really care. They're just going to bug you, and you just don't really want to be bugged. Sorry, I'm pulling my phone out of my pocket because it's ringing and it's bugging me. But the real key is to get buy-in from the people around you. And when my team saw that my numbers were going up, they kind of figured it out. But I still had to explain to them, hey, if you guys bug me, then I'm not going to get these things done. And so like I had to tell my processor, you know what, I don't, unless it's like truly urgent, someone's not funding, don't interrupt me. And guess what happened? No one interrupted me that year, because we all know that rarely happens. But we treat every deal like a funding that's going to happen now. We treat every interruption, every phone call like it's that urgent, when really it's something that you could probably do this afternoon after you do those most important activities that you said were most important in your ideal week. And so when I'm speaking right now, I've been giving out a lot of statistics on that, just so you guys know. The reason I say you have to commit to things like calling your leads every day is because the statistics are that most leads are not called. 47 to 49% never get called, right? And I had a loan officer last year before last, tell me that if he finds a lead in his email or in his text message, it's more than a week old, he deletes it and pretends it never happened. Okay. How do you think that realtor felt? That was maybe their mortgage payment. How do you think that client felt? If I felt that I'm the best loan officer to help that client, then I'm a loser. I should have followed up with them. And so you gotta have a system to follow up. And statistics show that 90 to 94% of the time, 90 to 94% likely to connect with somebody if you call a minimum of 6 times. Again, so if you're only calling a lead once or twice or 3 times, which is what I used to do until I heard the statistics, at that time it was 7 calls. And so I made 7 calls over 2 weeks. You have to have a written system for this. And so these are just kind of the things where when I started teaching this to people over the last quarter, all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, I do that. Like, let me try. And all of a sudden your conversion rates go up. So what happened to me when I created my ideal week, and then I committed to it, and then I actually did it, right? And I hid out so that I didn't get disrupted, is that all of a sudden my activity went up, my conversion rates increased. So again, that's what you're really shooting for. It's the work smarter, not harder thing. And what is it that you can do differently to get there? So someone just said that accountability partners flake out. I would tell you there's 2 resources for accountability partners for loan officers currently. Number one is that you need more than one accountability partner, because they do flake out. I'm laughing. Like, I have accountability partners for my morning routine right now, and they're in my entrepreneur group. So one lives in Scotland and one lives in Israel. And so I wake up in the morning and then they'll tell me what they did for the morning routine, because they text me in the middle of the night. Thankfully, I don't doesn't wake me up. My phone's on do not disturb. But and one of my commitments for this year is to not have my phone next to my bed. But the key is to find multiple accountability partners. I think when you teach it to realtors, then it holds you accountable, because you're teaching it and you've offered to find somebody else. I think that if you're offered to a realtor and they're not interested, don't be offended. Then they're just not ready for it. They don't understand the why behind it. That's why I ask them the questions up front. And then the 2 resources would be, number one is there's a couple threads right now actually in the Win by New User Mastermind group. I didn't log into Facebook this morning, so I don't know. I don't know how that's going. As of yesterday, there was a few people in there. And so there are some people in that group looking for accountability partners. I told you guys I'm not going to try to sell you too much, but let me just tell you that there's the 2 programs that I'm launching. I've already mentioned one. On the 22nd, we're launching the next versions of the digital programs. And those will have where you're turning in your homework weekly. And then the second part of that is based off of the groups that just finished up. They said, how do we keep this going? And so based on their request, I'm actually starting a paid accountability group. It'll be a secret Facebook group. It exists, you just don't know it because it's secret. And I'm the only member today. And that group will be a buy-in group where you pay, it's gonna be $99 a year. I'm not gonna, and we picked the number because that's what everyone told me they would be willing to pay. I said, what's a number that's high enough that you'll participate and come every week? Because again, when it comes to accountability, you just hit the nail on the head. People fall off because it's just not painful if they don't do it. To me, not getting a paycheck should be painful, but that's just not how it always works. And I said, what's too little and what's too much? And the group came up with $99 as the fee. And so what that's going to consist of is turning in homework weekly, sharing of scripting and ideas. It's going to have me coming in live and doing Q&A and teaching, me bringing in, I've already got a couple people lined up to come in and do interviews. realtors and loan officers coming to do interviews that we're only going to do inside of that group. So it should be kind of a cool group. And the people who are doing the digital product will get to be part of this group for free for that period as well. Again, behind the curtain, I'm figuring if it's valuable, then they'll stay in and they'll pay the $99 when they're done. If it's not valuable, they'll quit. So that's coming out. Just to kind of give you guys how to get information on. Number one is I'm going to send it all in the emails. I told you where I was going to send you all the free stuff first, and then the stuff that I'm going to sell you so you don't think I'm a jerk. And then the second part is that if you look at the calendar, I'm doing a webinar where I'm going to specifically talk in detail about all these ideas tomorrow. And then we'll launch it also. Again, if you're interested, great. If you're not, I apologize for a 3-minute commercial. When it comes to, someone says, so I have a Win by Noon intro. I do have a Win by Noon intro. So let me just talk about a couple of things that you guys may find helpful. I'm just looking at my props behind me to see if I have one of the editions. So let me kind of talk through the way that hopefully you guys will find this valuable. If you're since I know you're a loan officer, if you're thinking about trying to, well, how would I work with this with realtors? I think you have to learn the information yourself for you, number one, right? So you have to watch the Win by Noon stuff. And so there's the free resources. And again, I'll put on the email for you so you see it. And some of it you can find easily on the website. Some of it you're signed up for, you just don't know it because it went into your spam filter. But when you actually sign up and buy Win by Noon, it's supposed to hook you into the portal. It's the Win by Noon training vault. It's called WBNtrainingvault.com. And if you go to that website, WBNtrainingvault.com, in fact, I'll type it in here so you guys can see it. Oh, let's see, WBN. My problem is when I do this is I don't type very well, so then I mess it up. So if you go to WBNtrainingvault.com, you can, if you remember which email address that you used to sign yourself up. So like a lady called me yesterday, said she couldn't get the email. And then I realized it's because she signed up with a Gmail address and she was putting in her work email for the other one. But that training vault is where all the content that I've ever produced sits. So it's got the quick start in there. It's got the tutorial for the business planning tool. And it also actually has the paid courses that I've sold in there as well. So once someone signs up if you sign up for we've probably signed you up automatically for the quick start, which is the loan officer version. You could go to the website, the Win by Noon website, there's a quick start button. You could sign yourself up for the realtor version. And so the first, 6 or 8 videos are identical. The last couple of videos are identical, but the ones in the middle where I talk about realtor specific stuff, I've had a lot of loan officers sign up. In fact, I think, I don't know if I mentioned to you guys on the call before, half the people on the real estate agent, how to teach it to, or how real estate agents knew, half the people on the new real estate agent Win by Noon webinar yesterday were loan officers, right? They're there to learn how to do it. And so watch the content is what I would do first. Learn it for yourself, then learn how I teach it to agents so you can teach it that way. And the people that I've talked to this week who are using it, they literally played that quick start, me talking for their agents or their loan officers in their office, and then had a discussion because they're all in kind of bite-sized chunks. And so you could absolutely use the business planning tool. And so the caveat I would give you on the quick start is it's a year old, and the training business planning stuff has better content, I think, on the Ideal Week, just because I had so many breakthroughs on the Ideal Week this year. And so it gives you the stuff that's in the business planning tool in depth, which is part of Win by Noon. Obviously, when you do the Win by Noon quick start, it gives you the daily piece of that and all the definitions. So those are the free resources. The other thing that we have that's close to going to print, we were supposed to have 16 family members at the game last night, but my wife was at the office. I got home at 10 o'clock and she was still here working with Adam. We have a launch edition of Win by Noon, and some of you may have gotten it. And the launch edition is a little bit different. It's designed for overcoming the objection that I get from people who say, well, gosh, it's already January 3rd. Don't I get a discount yet? And so now we have an undated version so they can start in the middle of the quarter and not beat me up over the fact that it's a quarterly planner. Number 2 is it helps me with inventory management, because going forward, all we do is we order less, and then we send the ones that are dated to our subscribers. And then if someone buys it who's never used it before, they're going to get an undated version. It has the instructions in the front of it. And my wife and Adam have spent 3 weeks working on these instructions, and they're really good, like really good, and they're really close. So it's actually got how to use it in writing, going through it, and then I'll re-record the quick start to match up to that, because my wife is way more articulate than me, although she would never do a video like this. And that'll be great too if you're to get those instructions. We'll make them available for free for you guys afterwards. And so it's just a great reminder of, okay, well, what does HW notes mean, right? Handwritten notes. What is a TCA, total cost analysis for Mortgage Coach? Well, what if I don't use Mortgage Coach? Well, then that just means I gave a scenario to my client, right? Check the box. What, those kinds of things. And then I would say that the Rolls Royce version of it is our certified instructor program. We just graduated our first class. It was a blast. And if you really want to become like top level, like go out there and crush it, teaching it to other people, using it as a business strategy we had 21 people there. 5 of them were title reps and the rest were all loan officers. And a couple of them were non-producing branch managers who are going to use it with their loan officers. One of them, the non-producing branch managers, is going to teach it to realtors to help their loan officers grow business. The rest were all people really were going to work it with primarily with their realtors on how to use it. And so they've been teaching it one-on-one. They've been teaching it in groups. So it's been kind of cool to see what the certified instructors have done so far. And we've got another class at the end of February. So if you're really into it, that would be my suggestion there. Again, a couple people are asking about the recording again. So look for an email by Monday. I'm trying not to overcommit myself because of everything that's going on in my world the next couple of days. But I'm going to send you guys an email. It's going to have a bunch of resources on it. I'll be the first one to tell you that our website is super frustrating to me, and therefore it's a little bit of frustration to you. And the website's not getting redone as fast as it should because of the app. We were waiting to get it redone so we could sell the app. The app's 3 months behind, and so we're giving away the app right now for the next almost 90 days. I'll tell you about that in a sec. And so we were waiting to redo the website to piggyback onto it, the subscriptions for the app. And now that gets pushed back. So the website reveal gets pushed back. So I'm just creating an email that's going to have a bunch of stuff in it. I'm going to try to limit the links. It's going to have hopefully one link to free content, like where do you get the quick start, where do you get the business planning tool, and the video tutorials for those. It'll have a page. I just don't know where it's going to be yet because either Adam will do it, and if he can't do it, then I'll build it into one of the training vault, the Win by Noon training vault that I just talked about. Or maybe I'll even use that thing called YouTube. I don't know. But these videos I've done over the past today and yesterday, there's 4 of them. Brand new loan officer, brand new real estate agent, how to business plan for yourself and with a partner, and then this random thing that we're doing here. I'll make sure that there's a link to that page. So that'll be link number 2. And then link number 3 is going to be a page that's, let's just call it a sales page. That's what they would call it in the industry lingo. And that'll have info on the things that we're selling. The certified instructor program, they'll have a link to the digital courses, the 2 that I mentioned, and then also to that accountability group and what that looks like. And then there'll probably be one more link I lied for. Well, there'll be one about the app. And so just real quick on the app for those of you who know. So the app will be in beta through March 31st. It'll be free till then. It's not going to be in the App Store, but we're waiting for Apple to approve it. They might have approved it, but I've been talking for the last 4 hours and I haven't looked at my email. I'm waiting for an email that says it's approved with a link that people can download it for their iPhones. Android, 2 weeks out. Once Apple approves it, then we know there's no change that need to be made for the initial beta test. And then it's 80% done for Android. And then they just have to do the 20% of changes that are in Android language, Google speak, and then they'll come out for you Android users. But it'll have a link to it. It's just winbynoon.com/app, APP for app. And then, but just the backstory is then you're going to get invited to a private Facebook group, which is the Win by Noon app beta test group. Again, nothing that original. And that's where we're going to post the link. Why am I going to post the link in there? And why am I making you go on to Facebook where you might get distracted? It's because I want the people who are using it I want to be able to ping you guys and know who's using it and get feedback, because the only way that we can make the thing better is feedback from you. I've already got an email to the developer on what I want to be done by March 31st. I've got some really clear, specific things that I know have to be done, but I don't know what else needs to be done until you guys all use it. All right, so we're 45 minutes into this webinar. It's an hour webinar. Full disclosure, I actually have 90 minutes of my calendar booked off. Although if you look at it, it's actually booked. It's got a dotted line, so it's a maybe. Like, I don't actually know that we need to go past an hour, but just nonetheless, if you guys had a gajillion questions, I want you to know I will stay for you. But then you can see I've got back-to-back meetings all the way till my family dinner with my kids who are home from college. And so hopefully that's helpful. Those are the resources that are coming out. Listen, my chat thing is really long now, so I don't know who I forgot to answer your question. So if you have a question and I didn't answer it, go ahead and retype it, because it's going to be easier for me than going through here. If you haven't asked me a question because you're too shy and you're just a lurker, that's okay. Ironically, we haven't lost people, we've gained people while we've been talking, so that's always cool. I appreciate that. I try never to look at that because it's super distracting. If all of a sudden like half your call, I'll quit, it means you sucked. That bad sense of humor, sorry guys. But it does happen, it could happen. I always actually look at that. A lot of you know that I co-host the Friday Productivity Mastermind on Mortgage Coach with Dave Savage. And, again, you just know, we typically lose 10% of the people in the last 10 minutes, probably because they know that Dave's going to do a pitch on Mortgage Coach. Hopefully he won't watch this. But I always know if it's really valuable, people stay all the way till the end, which is kind of fun. So in fact, we had a great call tomorrow. If you're watching this, we're having Coach Bill Hart, my good buddy and original coach, on talking about the 3 critical things to do in 2019 or something cool like that. He came up with a great title. All right, so no one's typed a new question there. That means I must have been really good, which I find hard to believe. So let me just sort of talk about a couple of other productivity hacks. Let's just go total different direction. It's not stuff I talk about all the time, but I briefly touched on it when I talked earlier about the ideal week. And when I do the ideal week, I already told you guys I used to hide out and make my wife really mad when I would do my on time, where on time is that time working on your business, not in your business, where I'd go plan. So when I first started hiding out, it was years before where I would do just to get my on time done. And I would take my phone, I would zip it in a pocket in my backpack, and it would make my wife really, really mad. Someone said, hey, which page? Someone says the link shows the page that is coming soon. Tell me which link you went to so I know which one I spelled wrong. And what I would say is that you've got to block the noise from yourself. You got to save yourself from yourself. And so for me, some of the things that I do is if you look at my phone right now, my email has 0 showing, like nothing. My email on my computer has nothing showing. In fact, there's nothing along the bottom. I've got like 75 apps along the bottom here. There's nothing that's got one of those little red things that has a number in it. So on my phone, what's red and has a number in it falls into 2 categories. It falls into what someone's going to use that's more important than anything else. My calls, if I missed a call, and my text messages, so I know I got a text message. All right, someone's saying the link that shows the page, the Training Vault page, is that the one you're talking about or one of the different ones? And here's what I promise you. One is that a lot of you have been multitasking while we've been on this call. Shame on you. That's called switching. You can't do 2 things at once, right? We've all had that conversation where someone's like, are you typing? Are you paying attention? And you're not. And you're like, oh crap, I just got caught. So number 1 is you can't, the Training Vault one, add the www to it. Sorry, guys. And so that's just a GoDaddy thing. So guess what I'm going to do? Watch this. This is me multitasking. I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to put it onto my to-do list for today and my win by noon. WBN Training Vault, add www. Okay, I'll get that fixed. Thank you. But what I know is that I always have email, like always. And so there's no reason for me to have those things on and have that. If you're one of those people that bugs you, turn that stuff off. Like turn off notifications that are unimportant. Like there's no reason that you should have that email thing come in that says I got a new email that flashes across an Outlook or on your Apple product. You don't need that, right? You just don't need it because ultimately just be safe with the fact that you always have an email, and be safe with the fact that even though you always have email, none of it's urgent. You know why? Because they would pick up the phone and call you if it was, right? They would call you if it was urgent. Number 2 is that be okay with the fact that you might have to retrain some people on how you're doing business going forward. I already said you have to tell your team the why behind it, but you may need to train your realtor partners as well. You may need to get to know what their expectations are differently. Like ask them, right? I already talked about asking questions. Hey, well, by the way, when you send me a lead, what are your expectations? Just find out. They're like, hey, you're going to call it 72 times today. Then you should probably know that. Most time they're just going to say, call it, right? Get their application. And what I found was I'd say, awesome, well, here's what my plan is, right? I have a 7-call program. Here's what it is. And then I would say, I would say something like this. Well, hey, you know what? I think you know that I'm really into my productivity, right? And then at this time, I would have pulled out that fancy page I showed you guys. I would have said, you know what? If you could do me a favor is, here's what my commitment to you is, and just tell me if it's ever going to be different for you. If you could do me a favor, best way to send me a lead going forward is going to be via text. And when you send me the lead via text, just let me know if there's a specific time frame within which I need to call them. Because my commitment to you is I will make sure that if I'm in the middle of something, that'll be the first thing I do when I get done. Unless it's urgent for some reason, then I would drop what I'm doing if I could, and I would call them right then. And what I found is they would text me the lead. It would just say, call Joe Smith. And then I'd say, could reply on it. That was it, on it. And on it just meant I'm on it. And that meant it was written down as a lead in my win by noon, and that I was going to call it when I called it, right? I didn't mean I wasn't going to do it now, right? I'm just on it. And unless it said, hey, Todd, can you call this person before 1 o'clock? On it, that was my response every time. And then I would know what the time was. So I asked them if it was time sensitive to tell me, just so I could make sure that I was ready to take care of it. Based on the fact that you guys know I'm busy and I'm on the phone all the time, I tell people that. And so I set those expectations. It may feel uncomfortable to you, but the weird part is people appreciate it when you set the expectation and then you actually meet it. And so you have to really spend some time on that. One of the things I did unexpectedly to me when I was doing the program is when I was the group program is I realized that people were getting stuck so much in their email. And so I ended up doing 30 minutes on email management. And the 2-minute summary is turn off the notifications. If you're doing your proactive lead calling, if you're doing your proactive, all the other calls that I talk about in the ideal week, work out of your sent folder, right? Again, if your thing is off and you are okay with the fact that you're 100% certain you have emails that are unread, that are not important, not urgent, but probably important, then you can just leave the only thing that's open. So that way, if I'm going to send someone an email, I can hit new, I can type it, and it just stays in the sense, but I'm not getting distracted by those other emails. Like, oh gosh, Mary Jo emailed me. Maybe that's the most important lead ever. It's probably not, because she would have called you if it was the most important lead ever, but you're going to send someone an email. Hey, just left you a voicemail. Here's what I still need from you. And then you're going to get distracted by Mary Jo's email. You're going to be responding to her. And then all of a sudden your appointment shows up and you didn't get through all your most important activities that are in your ideal week. And so just the other thing is we waste a lot of time with stuff that's stupid, like set up rules and unsubscribe from stuff. Like, you don't need to read every new loan guideline that comes in. I promise you, if it's super important, your coworker next door to you has already posted to Facebook. And so when you get on Facebook tonight, you guys are probably getting on Facebook tonight, look, it'll pop up in your feed anyway. And so I found that if there was something that was so cool that happened, someone else in the team would tell me. So when I was doing loans, all of those emails that came in from the lock desk, from underwriting, from blah, 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 everyone all went into a folder, oftentimes into the trash, because you can still search your trash. But I used to have a news folder. I had a loan update folder. Again, we all get those stupid news things every day. I send it all into a news folder. So bond market updates, Housing Wire, all those kind of things I sent into a folder because I don't have time to read it and I might get distracted by it. I was protecting myself from myself. And what I found is that if I was going to show up at that Tuesday office at the Tuesday meeting at the RE/MAX office and I wanted something to talk about, then I would schedule some time. I'd go in there and I'd look at those emails when I scheduled time to do it. And the last thing I'll say about email is that oftentimes I find that the reason that we don't have good email hygiene because we're not unsubscribing, doing these other things. And you got to be vigilant about it. Keep doing it. Like I literally schedule like a day or two a year where I go in and I just do all this again. And one of the things you have to do is I'm bad at it. I am is don't look at email unless you have time to respond. And let me say it again. Don't look at email unless you have time to respond. Because what happens is that you look at the email while you're at a stoplight and you don't have time to respond. You shouldn't be trying to respond while you're driving, please. And so then 6 more emails have come in and it's way down at the bottom. It already shows red and you're not as quick as you should have been to respond. You would have been way better off if you would have just waited and looked at it once when you could respond. It's that whole idea of one-timing it versus doing things multiple times, because I'm still gonna have to reread it a second time before I respond to make sure that I respond accurately. And it is, it's really hard for me, but I'm telling you, when I do that, it's a game changer. It saves me a ton of time. So that's probably my other biggest productivity piece is that we get sucked into our email, we get sucked into social media. Again, you have to be on social media. And, I said that. I think you have to be on social media, but I would make sure that I would make sure that if I was going to be on my social media, I would literally be careful when I go on. Don't go on at a stoplight. Same thing, right? You know, you might miss what it was you wanted to see in your feed. You're better off letting your feed refresh and have the most important things show up on there. Algorithms are funky. We don't have time to talk about that. But what I would tell you is that when you're really honest about your time, and I made people track their time during some of my coaching, and it's amazing how often I say, oh gosh, you know what, let me just check to see whose birthday this is so I can wish him happy birthday on Facebook. And then all of a sudden, 25 minutes later, got sucked into the vortex. So you just have to be really careful about that. You know, the whole idea of being present, again, just kind of some basic stuff that I've heard from realtors lately. They're like, well, I was at that class with the loan officer and she spent her whole time on her phone. And they're like, well, they weren't paying attention to what I was doing. So it's one thing if you show up, but just so you know, if you're not paying attention, they're watching. They know you're not paying attention. You need to pay attention, be taking notes. That's that follow-up conversation. That's how you're going to help the realtor who wasn't there get unstuck, right? You're going to take those ideas. You know, and again, you know, I'm a family person. It applies with your family too. And again, it's hard for me even to, I'm like, oh my gosh, who was that just texted me at the dinner table? I'm like, okay, no, let's put our phones away. And so I'm a work in progress on a lot of this stuff, and some of this stuff I'm like super awesome at. And so I'm happy to share with you guys transparently about what works and doesn't work. I think there's anything else exciting on productivity while I wait for someone else to type a really smart question. Let's see here. Oh, I did lose a couple of you, so that just means I'm getting boring, but that's all right. They just missed my best tips. All right, so let's sort of close this call out with an action plan, okay? And I think this is kind of one of those pivotal moments for some of you, and maybe not pivotal, but critical for the rest of you. It is Thursday, January 3rd of 2019. There's some critical decisions that you need to make now. Maybe there's some critical decisions you've already made over the past week or two, and you just need to maybe review those. Remember that it needs to be in writing, and there's scientific proof that talks about the fact that written things tend to get done. Fact that even writing it, the art of writing is actually better than typing, but that's a whole other thing. But you need to commit it down somewhere where you can see it. The reason that we created tools like this, the reason that the front of the business plan, of the planner has the business plan in there, is so you look at it. The reason I told you guys that on my personal list is to reread my life plan once a week going forward. It's a reminder to myself because I fell out of the habit. It's not stuck in my planner. Right now, I'm rewriting it next week, and when I rewrite it, it'll be in my planner in the back pocket, and I will read it every week. So I've written it down as a commitment, and you have to have time where you actually review and reflect. And so that's why I say Mondays on your ideal week is your time to do that. I do mine on Sunday mornings, where I set my intentions for the week. I look at my calendar, I fill in the ideal week. In fact, if you look at mine, I've got my ideal week for all of January into February already written, and it's because that's how far out I'm scheduling, right? I'm looking at those things. I'm looking ahead. And I'm getting really intentional about what those priorities are, because here's what I know is that if you guys can get really clear and committed to these things to get you to your goals, right? You have today, right? We just finished 2018. So you can look backwards at 2018 and you know what you did. And you can decide that was awesome, high five, that was pretty good, okay, lower five, or maybe you didn't have the best year, and that's okay. Because now we can look down at where we want to be at the end of 2019, right? That's the business planning tool. So you've got this here, 18, here, 19. And in between is an opportunity gap. And we got to figure out how are we going to get there. And we're going to get there by getting really clear on what our goals are. We're going to get really clear on what the milestones to get there are. That's why we're looking quarterly. That's why we look at it every week and every month. And we're going to have that time to review to make sure we're on track so we can course correct what we're doing. Like, do I need to increase my activities to get my results back on track? Do I have to change my activities to get my results back on track? Gosh, you know what? I took that meeting last week and that was a waste of my time, right? We're looking for the opportunities to improve as we go into the year. And then it's the activities that are going to be the driver, period, right? That's why you got to be committed to your ideal week. And then it's the projects that are going to fuel the growth. And so the reason that we talk about the idea list when we do the business planning piece, the reason we created a project list is you're going to have to schedule that on time to do the projects to get there. If that's what you need. Some of you don't need that. Some of you just need to actually do the activities first consistently. And then that'll start driving the business. And then you can make the time to do the projects. There's some of you who are waiting to finish projects before you start the activity. Don't start the activity first. projects come second. Because here's what I know. Regardless of where you finished up 2018, you get to write 2019 now. But you've got to make some changes. If you think you're going to do the same thing, you're not. I mean, I congratulate you all for being here. Although I'll be frank with some of you I know are on calls like this all the time, but you don't act, right? I've been there. It doesn't really help me to buy another digital program. Like I'm not allowed to. I've banned myself from it because I haven't had time to finish some of the ones I've already bought, right? I mean, I haven't. And so don't waste money on a product, even one of my products, that you're not going to schedule a time to finish, that you're not going to be committed to finish. But what I know is that not the end of this week, because it's a short week. At the end of next week, right, you're already going to have, if you start tracking these things, you're already going to see, how am I doing already? What's the feeling in our market right now? What's the feeling in my office right now? How are my partners feeling and doing? And you can really lay out all of these things. It's not too late to wish people Happy New Year. I can tell you that I didn't use one of those fancy text programs. They were one-by-one texts. I sent out 169 Happy New Year texts on New Year's Day. And I had originally 100, I wrote it down. I was telling people yesterday. I had 131 people that day respond back, and I didn't track the ones yesterday, but probably another, I don't know, almost all of them. I mean, I have a few losers that didn't respond to me, but that's okay. Just kidding. A few people didn't respond to me. That's okay. It wasn't important to them. They won't get a text from me next year. And, but I did that again. It's not too late to re-engage with people, to wish people Happy New Year. If that's where your heart is, right? Don't say it if you don't really mean it. Don't send it to people that don't really care. But ultimately it's relationships. And so why did I do that? Who got those? My team got it. My family members got it. Realtors that my team still works with that are my friends got it. Coaching clients got it. My coaches got it. People that matter to me got it. And all I'm trying to do is be intentional about those relationships as we go into, as I go into next year. And I want you guys to be really intentional about what you do. I mean, every minute that you have is easy to waste. It's easy to waste because you get to choose what the interruptions that you allow. One of the quotes I used a lot last year was, you get what you tolerate. And your life will build around what you allow to happen. And so I'm just telling you guys to be really laser focused, be kind of pig-headed about it. When I did this thing till 11:30, it was pig-headed, right? But people bought into it because I told them why I was doing it. I didn't say I'm doing it to be a jerk. I said, I'm doing this to protect me from myself. I'm doing this to protect me from the shiny object. I'm doing this to protect me from getting easily distracted. And because I have a goal, at the end of 2016, it was actually the end of 2015 that my goal was. At the end of 2015, I want to be a $100 million producer. And I had to make a commitment to change. And that was the hardest thing I ever did. And ironically, my life has changed dramatically. Number one is my income went way up when I did $100 million. Well, that's kind of funny how that happens. Number two is it gave me the opportunity, because I took time to reflect and review and teach to people. It came up with this little crazy thing, right? That's called Win by Noon, right? Win by Noon is a result of having that time. And it would never happen if I hadn't done these things that we talk about. So I hope you guys found it valuable to spend the time hearing this kind of ad hoc call. And I sort of just threw it on there, not knowing what to expect. Who was going to show up, what it was going to be. So it's kind of fun that it was all of you loan officers. And, just know my goal in 2019 is going to be to figure out how we can look back when we get to the end of the year and say, okay, you know what, I did that. And again, you won't be perfect. You're going to do little bumpies along the way. I just don't want you doing this along the way. And stay plugged into the community, be part of the Facebook group. Would love to see you there. Give me feedback on Win by Noon. Give me feedback on calls like this. Reach out to me. Tell me what other content you think would be valuable. Tell me what other content you got value from somebody else. You're like, hey, Todd, can you maybe make content on this with your spin? Look for me in the neighborhood near yours. Check the calendar out, because I would love to spend time with you guys if you're going to be around. I've already thrown it out there. I'll be in Miami. So anyone who's near Florida, whether you're going to Gary Vee's event or not, I will be there. I would love to see you. And I don't know where else I'll be. I'm going to be in Atlanta in April. It's in the calendar. So someone's asking me about the app. As I said, I'm waiting. It's got to get out of Apple jail. So as soon as Apple approves it, then the app will be posted into this Facebook group. So just keep an eye out. If you've already registered off of the Win by Noon webpage, you'll get an email with all of it once it's there. But I was really hesitant to announce it because I didn't know if it was going to be available on the 1st and the developer swore to me, almost with blood, that I'd have it on the 1st. And then I said, okay, well, I at least have it by the 2nd. And they submitted it to the Apple Store on the 1st, and it just hasn't been approved, even though it was pre-approved. You know, kind of like one of those online lender pre-approvals. You know, apparently it's not really a real pre-approval, but it's been through their new vetted process. It was supposed to make me fast through the second part. But once we get off of here, I've got 25 minutes because I'm kicking you guys off this call right now. So I've got 25 minutes before my next call, and I'm going to jump in. I'm going to clear my email. I'm going to work on my commitments. If you guys have questions or any follow-up, reach out. I'll be on a webinar tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, which is, 11 Mountain Time is when I'm going to spend half hour or so running through the new programs in more depth for those of you who want to be there. And then just look for that email by Monday, which will give you the free resources, copy cell recordings, how to get the app, and the sales pitch on the other stuff. At the very bottom, though, will be my sales pitch. But anything else you guys can think of, let me know. But appreciate you guys all taking the time to sign up for tomorrow. winbynoon.com/calendar, and you'll see all the stuff that's on there. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate you all being here. Happy New Year, and let me know what else I can do to be a help. But until then, I'm kicking you guys all out of here.